Level 1. The Draft. You are 17 years old. You do not apply. There is no application. One day, the state determines that you are the right age and the right gender, and the determination moves through the machinery of the government until it arrives at your door. It does not ask, it informs. You are conscripted into the Korean People's Army Naval Force. The law says the Navy term is 48 months. The law is a floor, not a ceiling. Extensions happen routinely, without appeal, for reasons that are never explained. Men who entered at 17 have left in their mid-20s. Before any of this begins, your songbun is reviewed. Songbun is the hereditary loyalty classification that has governed North Korean society since the 1950s. Your family's political history, your grandparents' proximity to the right side of the right events has been assessed, categorized, and filed. The results follow you. They determine where you go to school, where you can live, and which part of the military you are assigned to. Core songbun means favorable placement. Wavering or hostile songbun, a grandfather who collaborated, a relative who defected means the patrol boat in winter, the submarine bunk, the frontline posting with the least political recourse. Basic training lasts 1 to 3 months. You are fed corn, not rice, which is rationed and inconsistent, but corn, sometimes whole kernels, sometimes powder, sometimes in a condition you learn not to examine. There is a shooting drill. You are given 3 bullets, not 30, 3 bullets per training period, because the military cannot spare ammunition for practice. You fire 3 rounds at a paper target. You are told you have been trained in marksmanship. You are now a sailor in the Korean People's Army Naval Force. 60,000 personnel, 2 main fleet commands, and more vessels than it has fuel to properly operate. You will learn what that means shortly. Level 2, the sailor. You are assigned to the West Sea Fleet at Nampo or the East Sea Fleet at Toho-dong. The 2 fleets are separated by the Korean Peninsula. They cannot reinforce each other in wartime. This is a structural fact about your Navy that no one states directly, but that becomes obvious from the layout of everything around you. Your boat is small. Most of the boats are small. The Korean People's Navy operates over 180 patrol craft, torpedo boats, and missile-armed fast attack vessels. The fleet is large in numerical terms. In material terms, much of it is old, undermaintained, and constrained by the same fuel shortages that shape everything else in the North Korean state. Ships that are supposed to go out regularly do not always go out. Ships that go out do not go far. Your operational theater is the coast, the northern limit line, the maritime boundary between North and South Korea in the Yellow Sea, is the line you approach, watch, and occasionally provoke. You know what happened near Bangyong Island in 2010? Everyone does. The ROK's Chunin, a South Korean corvette, was sunk by a torpedo. 46 South Korean sailors died. The weapon was traced to a North Korean CHT-02D acoustic wake-homing torpedo. A Yono-class midget submarine was responsible. You were not told this officially. You pieced it together from what circulates carefully among sailors who have been here long enough to understand the shape of what they are part of. On days when there is no patrol, there is political study. Political study is mandatory. It involves reading approved texts, discussing the supreme leader's speeches, and confirming in front of the political officer that your commitment to the Workers' Party of Korea is undiminished. The sessions are supervised, the participation is monitored, no one needs to threaten anyone. The structure of the situation makes the expectation clear. This is your life as a sailor, cold when it is cold, which is often, politically managed every morning before the day begins, and longer than you were told it would be, though you knew better than to believe the original timeline. Level 3, the petty officer. You have been promoted. This is not purely a function of time served. It is also a function of your political reliability score, a formal assessment maintained by the political officer, covering your performance in ideology sessions, the content of your letters home, and whether anyone has reported you saying anything that could be characterized as impure. You passed. You are now a petty officer. The rank sits between the ordinary sailor and the officer class. What this means practically is that you are responsible for sailors below you while remaining subject to officers above you, and you have limited real power over either group. The sailors below you are your problem. Their performance reflects on you. Their political reliability affects your assessment. If someone in your charge says something problematic, you are expected to have noticed it first and reported it. The reporting structure flows upward. What does not flow upward, but exists everywhere beneath the surface, is the accumulated resentment of men living in poor conditions for years longer than they anticipated. You manage this with what is available, the structure of authority, which is real, and the shared understanding that everyone here is in a version of the same situation, which is a form of solidarity the system does not acknowledge, but that everyone navigates. Your own conditions have not improved significantly. The food is the same. The quarters are marginally better, a small degree of privacy that did not exist at the sailor level, which matters more than it should after years of communal sleeping. The uniform has different markings. The political study continues, now with the added expectation that you model the appropriate level of engagement for the men you supervise. There is a line that runs through the North Korean military that no one draws explicitly, but that everyone navigates daily. The line between being loyal enough to survive and being loyal enough to be trusted. You are between those two things. Most people here spend most of their careers in that space. Level 4, the submarine. You have been selected for submarine service. The Korean People's Navy operates approximately 70 submarines, one of the largest fleets in the world by number of hulls. The fleet sounds significant, stated that way. In practice, it consists of Soviet-era Romeo-class boats, domestically produced Sang-o coastal submarines, and Yono-class midget submarines. The Romeo-class was designed in the 1950s. The Sang-o is a coastal platform. The Yono is a midget submarine, whose operational history includes things that are officially undiscussed but forensically documented. You are on a Sang-o, 50 meters long, roughly 300 tons submerged, a crew of around 15. The interior volume available to each man is not something you measure, because measuring it makes it worse. The engines are diesel-electric. The boat must surface to run the diesels and recharge the batteries. When the diesels are running, it is loud, and the exhaust situation is managed in a way that works technically, but that you breathe continuously. The boat smells like fuel, condensation, and the specific accumulation of men living in a sealed metal tube. Hot bunking is standard. You sleep in a bunk still warm from the man who was there before you. Practical operations are measured in tens of nautical miles. You stay close to the coast. You do not transit to open water. What you understand, without it being stated, is that the submarine force exists to do things that cannot be attributed operations, that officially did not happen, that leave evidence at the bottom of the sea or in classified files in Seoul and Washington. The men who plan those operations are not on this boat. You are the platform. The decision makers are elsewhere. In this environment, something clarifies. The instruments matter. The maintenance schedules matter. The 15 men in this sealed space depend on each other in a way that is not mediated by political officers or reliability scores. It is the most functional you have felt since conscription. Level 5, the junior officer. You graduated from the Wonsan Naval Academy. The path to the officer corps in the Korean People's Navy is not primarily about aptitude. Aptitude is required. You cannot commission officers who cannot navigate, but aptitude is the floor. The ceiling is political. Songbun is reviewed again at every stage of officer selection. Your family background, your parents' records, the presence of anyone who defected or was labeled hostile, all of it is weighed. The officer corps requires core songbun. Wavering backgrounds produce enlisted personnel. The hierarchy of military service mirrors the hierarchy of social trust. The curriculum combined naval training with Juche ideology. The political component of your evaluation was as weighted as the technical one. You are commissioned as an ensign, the lowest officer grade. You have authority over enlisted personnel and petty officers. You report to a senior officer, and alongside the military chain of command, you are subject to the political officer, whose parallel authority and reporting responsibilities include you. This is the part that requires adjustment. The political officer is not your superior in the military sense, but the political officer's reports affect your career in ways that performance alone cannot counteract. An officer who shows insufficient enthusiasm during the Supreme Leader's birthday commemorations will have that documented in a way that travels farther and sticks longer than a poor patrol report. You learn to perform correctly in both channels simultaneously. This is not hypocrisy. It is the operational skill most valued by the system you are now part of. Your quarters are better than anything you had as enlisted. The food has more protein. You have a desk. None of these are luxuries in any absolute sense. Against the baseline of what you left, they register as significant. The gap between what you were taught an officer is a professional, trained commander of naval forces, and what being a junior officer here actually involves is a gap. You begin measuring carefully and speaking about never. Level 6. The political officer. You are not primarily a sailor. You never were. Your training was different from the beginning. You studied ideology alongside military doctrine, but the ratio was reversed. You understand the apparatus, the reporting structures, the evaluation criteria, the language of ideological assessment, the way a technician understands a complicated machine. From the inside, your formal responsibilities, conducting political education sessions, monitoring ideological health, evaluating the reliability of all personnel under your observation, submitting regular reports to the General Political Bureau on morale, loyalty, and adherence to the party line. The Bureau administers a parallel command structure running through every unit in every branch of the military, down to the company level. The self-criticism session Sungwa Chonghwa is a collective ritual in which personnel identify their own failings and the failings of their peers. You facilitate it. You listen to what people confess and what they confess about each other, and you assess the gap between what is offered and what you already know, and you use that gap to understand the room. You know which sailors are writing letters home with complaints. You know which junior officers are performing loyalty rather than feeling it. The performed version has a specific quality that becomes recognizable once you have read enough personnel files. You are both powerful and isolated. The officers know you have reporting authority over them. The enlisted know the same. Everyone is formal in ways that do not appear in their other interactions. You are useful to the state, and the state rewards useful people, and everyone around you knows this. What you have given up for this is something you do not say out loud. You are not trusted by anyone you work with, not in the way officers trust officers or sailors trust sailors in the compressed intimacy of shipboard life. You are the mechanism through which the party watches the military. Mechanisms do not have friends, they have functions. Level 7, the captain. You command a vessel. You are aware of what happened in May. A new destroyer, one of the most significant surface combatants the Korean People's Navy had commissioned in years, was damaged and partially submerged in what was described as an accident. The naval commander was removed. Kim Jong-un described the incident as a serious accident and criminal act caused by sheer carelessness, irresponsibility, and unscientific empiricism. The commander was labeled a criminal. This was reported through official channels. You think about this on the bridge. Not because you are careless, because the definition of criminal in this context is not limited to what you would recognize as criminal. A ship damaged through a sequence of reasonable decisions that nonetheless produces a bad outcome is still a damaged ship, and a damaged ship still requires someone to be responsible, and responsible here is a category with specific consequences. You document everything, every order, every decision, every deviation from procedure. You cultivate a functional relationship with your political officer because the political officer's report travels with your career. And a political officer who considers you reliable is better protection than most. The maintenance is challenging. Spare parts for Soviet-designed vessels are not infinitely available. The procurement system has its own constraints. You report these constraints accurately because overstating readiness creates a gap between the report and reality that will eventually become visible. And when it becomes visible, it will be labeled something. Command at this level is an exercise in navigating the space between military professionalism, which requires honest assessment of real conditions and political survival, which rewards optimism and penalizes any information that reads as criticism of the system's ability to equip its forces. You have found a position in that space. It is not comfortable. It is sustainable. For now. Level 8. The senior officer. You attend the events? This is the thing that distinguishes your level from the levels below it. Junior officers are assigned to vessels and bases. Senior officers appear at the weapons tests, the military parades, the visits to naval facilities that Kim Jong-un conducts to demonstrate his personal oversight of the armed forces. Being seen at the events is part of the function. Being seen reacting correctly, the expression, the timing of the applause, the posture of enthusiasm is the other part. In 2015, the defense minister Hyung Yong-chol was reportedly executed by anti-aircraft gun in front of hundreds of witnesses for falling asleep at an event Kim attended. You do not sleep at events. The turnover rate in senior military positions since Kim Jong-un consolidated power in 2011 has exceeded 70%. A man who attended last week's ceremony is not at this week's ceremony, and no one asks where he went, because asking draws attention to the absence, and drawing attention to absences is not something people do at senior officer gatherings. The system is not irrational. It produces exactly the outcome it is designed to produce. Senior officers who are acutely attuned to the preferences of the supreme leadership, who do not develop the institutional independence that becomes the foundation of a coup, who are perpetually uncertain enough about their own position that faction building becomes too dangerous to attempt. It works. That is the unsettling part. The cost is that it eliminates, over time, the honest internal assessment that would tell the leadership where the real problems are. The reports that travel upward from your level have been cleaned. Uncomfortable findings have been softened or omitted because the officer who files an uncomfortable finding risks being identified with the finding. The Navy has aging submarines, inadequate fuel, and sailors eating corn powder. The reports that reach the top do not describe it in those terms. Level 9, the admiral. You hold the position of commander of the fleet. Kim Myong-sik held this position before you. He was removed following the destroyer incident. He had commanded the Navy. The Navy had an accident. He was no longer the commander. The causal chain does not require further elaboration. The fleet you command is numerically large and operationally constrained. The submarines are old and noisy diesel boats designed decades ago, limited by battery range and the requirement to surface regularly, loud enough when running that a capable sonar operator can hear them coming. The surface combatants are limited by fuel. The practical reach of your Navy is measured in dozens of nautical miles, not the open ocean deployments that define major naval powers. What the Korean People's Navy actually provides the capability that justifies its existence strategically is asymmetric. Midget submarines that can operate covertly close to the coast, sea mine capability that makes the approaches to North Korean ports extremely dangerous, coastal anti-ship missile batteries that do not require the ships to leave port at all. The fleet is not designed to fight the US Navy in open water. It is designed to make conflict in Korean waters costly enough to deter. You brief the supreme leader, or you prepare briefings that are delivered to him. You are aware that Kim Jong-un takes personal interest in naval failures and that the language he uses to describe them carries criminal implications. You are aware that the reports you file reflect on you personally in ways that go beyond professional assessment. You are at the top of one of the most politically dangerous positions in the North Korean military. You believe approximately half of what you write. Level 10, the common thread. Here is what connects the conscript eating corn powder in Nampo and the admiral writing reports in Pyongyang. Neither of them is in a navy in the sense the word is normally used. The Korean People's Army Naval Force exists to hold the coastline, to project the threat of asymmetric retaliation serious enough that any sea-based military action against North Korea carries costs that must be calculated in advance, to conduct deniable operations near the northern limit line, and to exist in parades and state television and intelligence briefings as evidence that the Kim government commands a significant military force. The conscript understands this at the experiential level, without the language to describe it. He knows that the patrol boat goes out and comes back, that the sector is watched, that the other side is watching back, and that nothing usually happens except the watching. He does not have a framework for why these conditions exist, only the daily fact of them. The admiral understands it with perfect clarity and speaks of it to no one. What connects them is the system they both operate inside. A military designed less for warfighting than for the management of deterrence and domestic political control, staffed by conscripted men with no exit. Officered by men whose careers are contingent on managing the gap between what is real and what is reported. The Songbun system ensures that the people with the least political recourse end up in the most demanding positions. The political officer structure ensures that at every level, from the patrol boat to the fleet headquarters, someone is watching and writing down what they see. This structure has operated for over 70 years. The vessels are different. The weapons are newer in some cases. The name at the top has changed. The structure has not. Conscription, corn, political study, promotion for loyalty, removal for failure. The fleet goes out, the fleet comes back. The sector is watched. The watching continues.